What about the role of studios? I mean, the studios are a big thing in America. I mean, with money like that, riding on a film, they want to interfere.
Well, you know, they do, and you know, the guys that made Avatar, I'd worked with before on Titanic, and I looked at
trained them by then.
I looked at them as what's that?
I said you've trained them by then.
Oh yeah, they were already beaten. No, it didn't stop them from having lots of good ideas for how I could cut the movie. but they trusted me, you know, because we'd been through it before, and I saw them as partners, not as the guys that I had to fight, you know, but guys that I had to, you know, I found myself in an interesting position on Avatar where you know, leadership as a director and a producer, you know, and as the head of a major media empire, you know how leadership is kind of a top-down process, and you lead by example, and you know, you manage a certain way. I found in dealing with the studio that I had to manage up as well. I had to if I didn't show them the confidence that we knew what we were doing.
Right.
And when we were having problems and we had made mistakes and it was costing money and affecting the schedule, I had to go to them and show leadership in the sense of, all right, here's what we did wrong. We've solved the problem. We know how to fix it. You're going to see a change in 3 weeks. Watch that, and you'll have a way to measure that we're going to fix this. And we were in unknown, uncharted territory.
Sure.
You know, and before the meeting, you know, but I would go in, and if I was calm, they would be calm. So I found that it really worked in both directions. So I was dealing with my partners. You know, I wasn't dealing with irrational bosses. You know, I mean, there's plenty of caricatures of the studio guys.
Yeah, I think a lot of that confidence also comes from the fact that if they know that they can trust you with your intentions.
Right.
So I think a lot of it comes from there, because if a person who's backing you financially, or a studio is backing you, and they trust the fact that you are as concerned, I mean, not as, actually you're more concerned about the film, and you are a practical person, then I think they are willing to go that extra mile with you.
Yeah.
You know, if they know that your intentions are in the right place, and
trust.
Yeah, it's trust.
Aren't we talking about trust? And trust only comes from relationships that have some standing, that have some time behind
You didn't see any sense of nervousness about
absolutely.
where it was taking so long and spending so much money that they were not getting.
One clue is the puddle of urine that they were standing in.
But you had a rough time with Titanic. I mean,
Titanic was much tougher,
because
in that sense, than Avatar. Titanic was a nightmare because the studio didn't trust us as much at that time, and they had laid off half the risk to another studio. So we had Fox and Paramount, and they were mostly in a war with each other to try to make each other look bad in the press. And it made the whole project just look like this huge mess, this huge fiasco.
Right.
And really, we just kept our heads down while the rockets went overhead, and just kept working on the movie, praying that it would be good. But up until it was released, and even a few weeks after it was released, we just assumed that we were not going to make any money at all. Because the film didn't even really open that big. It opened to $28 million, which, you know, for a U.S. domestic opening of a big movie, that's a failure. You know, but then it went up. You know, but again, we didn't know until weeks into it that we even had something. And we were just satisfied to be making, you know, a film that we believed in. I mean, ultimately, I think that's the most important thing. If you believe in what you're doing and you believe that the result is not compromised, then the financial parts of it, in terms of how successful the film is, aren't that important. I'm speaking from the perspective of an artist. I mean, obviously, from the studio perspective, they're a lot less happy about that if the film doesn't make money.
You know, the other thing I feel about cinema and filmmaking is what I'm looking for, and this is especially as an actor, is when I get offered a film and you know, I meet the director, what I'm really looking for is, does he have a story to tell? And I'll tell you what I mean by that. So if we're sitting in a party, the 20 of us, and I ask you to tell us something interesting that's happened in your life, so you would think about it and then think of something and then tell me that, oh yeah, well, once this happened and that happened. Now the same situation, there's a party going on, 20 people, the bell rings, you walk in and you say, guys, you won't believe what happened. Shut the music off, listen to me, guys, let them listen. You will grab everyone, you have a story to tell. You will grab everyone's attention and you'll make sure they listen to you. And there'll be an energy in the way that you're telling that same story. And so that's what I'm looking for as an actor, in a filmmaker.
Yeah.
So does the filmmaker have a story to tell? Is he excited? Has he got something in his stomach that he really wants to come out with? And that's what I felt when Ashutosh came to me with Lagan, or Farhan came to me with Dil Chahta Hai, or Mehra came to me with Rang De Basanti. Many such examples. I think that is one of the key things, because at the end of the day, it's storytelling. So if you're excited, you'll find the right way to tell it.
Yeah.
And if you have a storytelling excited, you will make sure people listen to you. And that's the one center thing I'm looking for always.
I mean, you have to, because I've been fortunate, especially on my last couple of films. But I've made films that haven't made money, films that have bombed. They're just as hard to make, But why do we go through all this? Why do we go through all this long, arduous months of work? Because we believe in the story that we're trying to tell, and you always have to believe in it. You have to be passionate, do your best. I don't know any filmmaker, I don't know any filmmaker that phones it in. Do you? I mean, do you know? I mean, there are filmmakers that are better than other filmmakers, but I don't know anybody that's lazy about the task. I think they all work pretty hard.
Yeah.
Some can stare at it forever and miss the important thing. That's true. I mean, you do see people that are limited perceptually.
Yeah.
But they all work hard.
Yeah.
Nobody tries to make a bad movie.
Yeah. No, it's a tough job. It really is a tough job and extremely demanding, which is why at the end of it, when a film doesn't work, no matter whose film it is, it's quite heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Because the team has really worked hard on it.
Yeah. And there's no secret formula, because you don't know
there is never
what makes a movie fail.
Yeah. Or what makes it succeed. And in fact, I read this thing by Ilya Kazan once. He was speaking about cinema at a gathering, and he was telling them how, what he felt about scripts and what are good films and what are the good, what to look out in a film, etc. And at the end of it, he said, after you listen to me, you might think that I know all about filmmaking and cinema. How come I still make duds? And he said that's the charm of it.
Yeah.
I like the way he put it. He said that's the charm of it. So, you know it all, but sometimes you still miss things, and it happens.
Yeah. But I think we're still learning. I mean, you were talking about coming to LA and learning some of the stuff that we were doing. I like to go to visit other filmmakers and see how they work, and I always get inspired. Like Robert Rodriguez, I went to visit him. He had his editing room set up in his living room. He'd moved all the furniture out and set up his editing suite there. It was just total passion. He was cutting his own film. He cut it himself. He shot it himself. He scored it himself. I thought, wow, that's great. This guy's a genius. And I couldn't do all that stuff. Although I do like to edit myself. But I got the bug to edit from watching him.
Right.
I just think you have to stay humble before the craft. There's always something new to learn. And sometimes I even take it farther, which is I'm going to put myself in a place where I don't know the answer. By design, I don't want to be the guy that knows everything. I want to be finding out something new. Maybe make a film on a subject that I don't know, because I'll learn about it. If it's something I've always been amazed by or curious about.
The other thing I was thinking about where the future is headed for cinema, and I don't know whether this makes any sense at all, but I think that up until recently, cinema was for a privileged few, in the sense that you had to go through the grind, you had to make your way through film school or be an assistant and work your way up, and until after working for 5, maybe 10 years, you finally get the chance to make a film. So you're on a set and you have a camera and you have actors and you're making a film. I think with digital cameras coming by, with cell phones having cameras on them, with softwares, editing softwares and sound softwares, with the internet now, I think filmmaking or storytelling and using film to tell a story. I'm using the word film loosely, but using images and sound to tell a story is now not just the prerogative of just a few of us. I think each one has a story to tell today. And each one can, in that sense, tell that story in his or own way. So I think the future, we need to look at that as a possible, I don't know, as a future as well for I don't know what the future holds in that area of
saying it's not a closed club anymore.
It's not a closed club anymore. I mean, my kid can just pick up a camera and make a film. Vinod was telling me his daughter was shooting him today, and she shot him upside down and said, everyone looks like they're walking on the ceiling and stuff. Now, that's a kid of 8 years old. So I'm saying each one of us is now empowered in a certain sense to be able to tell a story and to use the world of the internet to actually exhibit the film. That's a strong possibility, and it'll happen more and more as we go along.
And you don't need to go up through a hierarchy to become a director. You can just become a director right away. You just get some friends together, and make a film. And then you can go on some Final Cut Pro on your laptop, and you can edit it, and you can make a complete thing, and then you just do a little character font to say directed by. And once your name's on there as a director,
that's it.
You're a director. Whereas before you used to have to come in through music videos or maybe through Roger Corman,
it's a long
budget film.
It's a long story.
And a lot of those avenues of entry don't exist anymore. Because that super low budget market doesn't exist, other than for kind of quality independent films. But the kind of schlock low budget market doesn't exist anymore. It's been kind of wiped out by cable. So now this kind of democratic access to the tools of the trade is the way to compensate for that. And people can come to you with an amazing short film that they've made for not very much money that has pretty professional quality, production values. So I think that's a really interesting point.
And I think it will get more personalized. Storytelling will get more personalized in that matter. I mean, it is, as we speak, it is getting more personalized. I know of a number of people who are making these short films, and I didn't know. I mean, they're not filmmakers as we understand them, but they are making films.
Well, there was a big hit film last year in the U.S. I think actually internationally as well, called Paranormal Activity.
That's right.
It cost $20,000 to make. I mean, I don't even know how you do. I don't even know how you feed the crew for a day. But it probably cost 50 times that amount to publicize it, to release it.
Right.
They made this film for like $20,000. It was incredible. I mean, the production values aren't very good, but they don't need to be, because they actually incorporated that kind of amateur camera look into the form, into the style of the film, into the form of the film. So it worked. And there have been other examples of that as well, like Blair Witch Project, which was a very successful film, was made for almost no money. I mean, there's no barrier to entry now. I think you're absolutely right on that.
So you're seeing the trends. That means low budget. On the other hand, your high budget one, where you're looking at 3D, digital theaters, and so forth. So you've got the complete gamut in a way.
See, that's what I love about cinema. Is there's room for that whole spectrum. Room for that. I mean, we couldn't have done the types of things we were doing on Avatar on a lower budget. We could have told some version of that story, but we couldn't have done those images. People ask me, all right, what's the next thing? What do you want to do next? What's the next new cool thing? I say, I want to be able to do the same type of thing as Avatar for half the money and in half the time. And bring the cost down by improving the process. Because again, it was experimental and we made a lot of mistakes, so we should be able to do it.
But do you think faster. 3D would be only for certain kinds of film?
No. I'm glad you asked that question. I've been thinking about this a lot. When widescreen first came out, the CinemaScope aspect ratio, it was a way for studios to make their movies seem even bigger. And it was just for a few films a year. And then what happened was the independent community said, oh, I like that aspect ratio. I can compose a story with two people talking in a love story, just on a street, but it'll look great. It'll look like a big movie, or aesthetically, we'll just like that composition. So very quickly, a tool of mega movies was adopted by independent cinema. And I believe that a drama would strongly benefit from being shot in 3D because of that sense of being physically present. Because I mean, what do we try to do in film? We try to put the audience inside. Why do we cut to an over-the-shoulder shot where we see a bit of the person in the foreground? Because it's a way of of being that person. You become that person for a moment. And then in a very dreamlike way, we go to the opposite side and we become that person for a moment. So in a way, you know, the filmmaking process is a kind of avatar process. They are our avatars while we're watching it. They become a version of us. We project our emotions into the people on the screens. Well, 3D heightens that experience.
Yes.
So, you know, and I would say that the additional cost of shooting in 3D is not so great if you're doing a strictly live-action film. It gets more when you're starting to mix effects into it. It gets more complicated compositing the images. And if you're doing a pure CG film, it's not much additional cost. You're kind of a bell curve. It's more expensive in the middle where it's a mixture of the two, which is, of course, where Avatar was. But if you're doing a straight dramatic film, you can do it quite inexpensively in 3D. And nobody's done this yet, but...
So we can expect a flood of 3D films now from Hollywood?
I'm concerned about a flood of bad 3D.
Yeah, because that will really turn it off.
Yeah, exactly. So we need to make sure the quality stays high. And, you know, personally as a filmmaker, I would share anything that I've learned with any other filmmaker to prevent them from making the same mistakes I had made. It's like they'll make their own mistakes. Just don't make the same ones we made. Yeah.
So 3D film for you?
I mean, I would love to, and I'm serious, James. I'd like to come there and you know, just watch how you made Avatar. You know, watch how you shot it. You know, if you can show me the stuff that...
Sure. Well, I'm unemployed, so now's a good time.
Okay, I'm going to open it up to the floor to see what questions they'd like to ask. I want to thank the